On the Fringe with Dan RadioStyle. Hope everybody out there is having themselves a great day. Question I had recently asked myself, and I really think the answer will surprise you, is how do you awaken sheeple? How do you awake masses of sheep that are asleep right now? And when I started thinking about how things are playing out and the way they keep progressing, and like there are times where literally you can stand there and say, all right, this is going to happen, and it does. It's almost like there's a side of this that's being controlled, like they're so easy to tell the future of, right? Like how they're going to behave. And there's the side that what they need to see in order to wake up, right? There's the people that are sheeple that are going to go out and do whatever. You just program certain things, say certain things on the news, and all of a sudden they're like, we will break windows for you, right? And they go out and throw rocks, throw trash cans, get mad, whatever. And then you've got the side where you would ask the question, all right, how much would it take to wake this person up enough for them to finally go, wow, something's not right. Something's not right with what I'm being told on the news. Something's not right what I'm being told by the politicians. Something's not right about the side that I love. Like that moment where you can finally wake up enough to question your very own family, right? The very own upbringing you had. For your whole life, you were like the water boy, and you were like, my mama said, and you just thought everything your mama said was brilliant. Come to find out, mama's not so smart. So how do you awaken people? And I'll tell you, the way things are playing out lately, I swear it feels like this is being controlled in some sort of way. I'm figuring the deep state has to know what's going on. Obviously, people are waking up. They're trying to stop that. Obviously, Trump is standing in the way. There's a great picture of him they recently shared with Q. In fact, I probably could pull that pretty easily, right? This right here, this post here. In reality, they're not after me. They're after you. I'm just in the way, which is very true. So there's a lot of questions going on about how this is playing out. And one thing that's funny in chess, there's what's called a two-move checkmate. It's technically the quickest checkmate you can get somebody into. Now, in order for this to work, the other person that you're attacking, well, two things really. One, you've got to be the color black, which means you go second. Two, color white has to start off exactly right. First move has to happen is this guy. This guy has to move. This pawn has to jump two ahead. Now, when that happens, this guy will jump two ahead as well. I think if I got that right. Nope, sorry. He's going to jump two ahead over there. Okay, so you move that one up, which typically he'd probably attack in that case. But then what happens? So either A, he moves whatever, or he attacks this piece. You move your queen out, and now you've got checkmate, because the king can't go anywhere. He can either move here or nowhere. He's toast. It's a two-move checkmate. Again, the only way this works is if the other side sets it up for you almost. They almost have to offer it up to you on a silver platter. And man, I swear, I don't think the left could be doing a better bang-up job offering it up to us on a platter right now. I swear it seems like this is playing out like we already won this, and we couldn't ask for it to play out differently. Like if I was to say, all right, I'm going to engineer this. I'm going to be military intelligence, and I'm going to plan this out. If I planned it out, I can't imagine how I would do it differently. And if I was to ask for people on the left, hey, all right, here's where I need you to help me out. Here's what I need you to do. I've got friends that think that the only time anybody ever actually attacks anybody or anything is when federal troops are in play. So, hey, I need to come up with another few situations where I can show people that's not really true. Help wake them up, like I was talking about. Well, interestingly, violent rioters torch courthouse in California and Colorado, attack police, and chant racial slurs. Now, the last part's kind of lame, whatever. Oh, you're a bad person, racial slur, fill in blank. Come on, that sticks and stones. But they are throwing sticks and stones as well, and those things actually will hurt. So it's interesting that, one, this is a picture of a courthouse. Too much movement. It's a picture of a courthouse. It's just burning. You don't really see anything interesting in there, so whatever. But now we got some case in Aurora Police Department. Protesters are no longer peaceful as they are now throwing objects, shining lasers, and shooting large fireworks at officers. We now have protesters that have broken windows to the courthouse and are inside of the building attempting to start fires. Now, fortunately, they were able to put the fires out. But again, these are not people that are not causing problem. They're not burning. I mean, these are people that are burning buildings, breaking windows, causing violence. This is before the federal troops get there. So that is not how this is playing out. Again, people on the left, people in the center are starting to wake up to this like not good smelling cup of coffee, frankly. And they're starting to realize, oh boy, we have some serious problems. And yeah, Colorado's been having some issues. Colorado's been abandoned by radical Democrats in power. Violence is at an all-time high, and decent, hardworking citizens need relief now. I've asked #Trump for help to stop criminals here because the selfish bastards like Governor Polis refuse to do so. Again, violence is happening already. Federal troops are not there yet, but we've got people begging for help, and we've got all sorts of people doing things to try to proactively deal with the fact that things are getting worse, that the Democrats seem to be pushing an agenda of violence, destruction, of anything. And for some reason, it seems like the Democrats believe this is actually benefiting their side. And it's going to backfire. Anybody, left and right, that's basically a peaceful citizen is not okay with violence, property destruction, destroying businesses, all this. No matter whose lives matter. And yes, Black Lives Matter, of course. But all Black Lives Matter, for sure. And definitely some other larger things that we're sort of ignoring. Now, another interesting story that was shared, there was someone that was asking, hey, friends of mine out there in the lands of all the cities that are being affected by these different attacks, send me some pictures. You know, all this peaceful protesting stuff. Go ahead, show me some pictures of the peaceful protests and what that has left behind in its wake. Again, peaceful protest. So as you can see, we start with a very fun picture that we'll see the aftermath of this particular picture in just a moment. But yeah, here's a liquor store that is completely ablaze. And I don't know, I don't see anyone with marshmallows. So frankly, a waste of a fire. But outside of that problem, again, peaceful protests. This is what peaceful people do. They break windows. You see all these broken windows down here? That peaceful people. Subway, like what, we're going to get some lunch meats? Seriously. You get some of that delicious bread? Oh, okay, let's bust into one of them. Now, PNC Bank makes sense, but again, broken windows. Broken windows. Hey, look at that. Broken windows. What a surprise. Oh, here's a building that seems to be burnt down. That's a very peaceful, protesty kind of thing to do. Here's that first picture we were talking about. This was the liquor store. Not anymore, but it's still got its sign. All right, well, you can keep your business going that way. Or here's some cars, here's some fire, here's some more broken stuff. That's not a way to treat a skateboard. Not very cool. More broken stuff, dude inside going, yeah, not cool. No. More broken stuff. More people that are upset. More broken stuff. More broken stuff. More broken stuff. More broken stuff. A lot of bad words, sorry. More broken stuff. Some more bad words. I mean, you know, that's how they feel, I guess, right? Broken stuff. Broken stuff. This is our peaceful protesters. Again, I will say it all day, and so does everybody else. Peacefully protest, that is in the First Amendment. That is, yes, do it all day long. That is your right, and I love it, and please keep doing it. If you're upset with the way the police are treating the black community, then without a doubt, peacefully protest, yes. If you're out here busting things, looting things, no. And this is the thing. People are waking up to this. This is waking people up. Look at that. Damage, destruction, statues. The statue that fell on that poor guy that's still in a hospital. They had to induce coma for that guy that the statue fell on him, and it messed him up. So again, just, you know, peaceful protest, just a couple pictures. Just a couple pictures of peaceful protests. It's all peaceful stuff. Thank God they're not actually being like, you know, dangerous or damaging or, you know, anything like that. I mean, at least they're not breaking every single frickin' window they can get their hands on. So, to add insult to injury, I don't know, to maybe bring more light to this, to maybe help shine a light on how backwards our society is and what many people maybe suggest is what they're trying to fix right now, how messed up things are. But the U.S. Supreme Court won't intervene as Nevada limits church services, but casinos can host thousands. Now, best I can tell, I think it's a little bit of a tough narrative right off the front. The Supreme Court, to my understanding, said, no, this should be handled from the state first, and then we'll see it maybe. Like they kicked it back down. It's like I think they tried to skip a level. Maybe I'm getting that wrong, but that was kind of my reading of it. So on Friday, the United States Supreme Court declined to intervene on behalf of the Nevada church, challenging the state's ban on religious gatherings of more than 50 people, while casinos are allowed to fill with thousands along the way, that they are at 50% capacity. Now, there's a church that doing 50% capacity, it's a Calvary church, and they could do 90 people. And so they're trying to get permission to have at least 90 people, and they're being denied. And so they're trying to go after the church and all this. And so the state of Nevada argued, however, that it could lawfully discriminate against places of worship for public health and economic reasons. The majority of the Supreme Court judges, 5-4, rejected Calvary's Chapel's application. Justices Samuel Alito, Neil Gorsuch, Brett Kavanaugh, and Clarence Thomas dissented, saying that the High Court should have heard this case. The High Court. Now, I think that's the court of the state, correct? So, again, these guys didn't disagree. They didn't say that in the Constitution it protects casinos and gambling, but doesn't with religion. And what I do want to say is I think it protects the expression of religion, the freedom of expressing religion. Now, technically speaking, by keeping a church closed, I don't necessarily think, and I'm just playing devil's advocate, I don't necessarily think that falls into keeping you from being able to express your religion. Just saying you can't express it in the case of large gatherings. But, and I'm not trying to make anyone mad, but casinos are allowed to do this. You can go into a Lowe's, you can go into, right? Like there are so many examples of other places where it would be equally as bad and certainly aren't like grocery stores. So I think there's a definite, obvious contradiction. People are starting to see this. Now, of course, the reality of it is states need money like mad. Where do they get money? Well, not from churches, right? They're tax exempt, so they don't really care about them. And so I think it's more an issue of the states just kind of showing what they really care about, which is taxpayer money. They don't really give a crap about the actual taxpayer, but they care about the money. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to open up stuff. I'm going to try to see if I'm in Las Vegas, I'm going to try to see if I can get that resort fee kicking back up, because that's like $37 a night. Not bad. If you're going to stay in a hotel in Las Vegas, guess what? You're paying Nevada $37 a night just for the luxury of staying there. So again, they get their money that way. But the churches, no, they don't get any of that money. So not going really well in that regard. Now, on a similar front, and I think this is hilarious, we have a Texas, I think he's a senator, Louis Gohmert. Am I saying that right? It doesn't even sound like a Texas name, but whatever. I'm sure Gohmert. Probably Gohmert. It's probably what it is, right? It wouldn't be Gohmert. That'd be like French or something, right? But due to racist past of the Dems, I suggest they change their name. They demand name changes nationwide. It's their standard. If they don't want to own the racist history of the Dem Party, why don't they change their name? And he goes on to great lengths to point out how they were tied to racist, how they were tied to the Ku Klux Klan, how they were tied to all these things that they claim everybody on the right is racist. But historically speaking, the left has been racist. So they don't like that. It's one of the reasons why they're trying to tear down statues. They don't want people to know the history. And if you can hide the history, then people are ignorant to what's really true. And of course, destined to repeat that history, which, hey, guess what? Here we are on the brink of a race war, which is really silly in this country. We've come way too far to be regressing back that far. Like, there may be some residual racism here and there, maybe worse than I understand it is, but it's certainly not nearly as bad as what Martin Luther King Jr. fought for, and where we've come since wasn't nearly that bad. Now it's not. So all these people that are, I'm a snowflake and it hurts my feelings when you look at me funny, man, you guys seriously got it way better than your forefathers did. That's for sure. And as far as me and my whole family life, yeah, I got it better than my forefathers too. Life is better today than it was a while ago. So there you go. Now, what's interesting, Chicago finally seems to be seeing the light, because I don't know, once you start hitting into triple digits on deaths, it's probably hard to justify, like, no, I'm doing a good job as mayor. No, seriously, I know every night people are getting shot. I know. And I know there's women and children. I know, but I'm doing a good job. I mean, there's only, so many of them every single night, because I allow all this nonsense to go on, and I keep telling the cops to not do anything. But I'm a good mayor. So anyway, people are starting to see through that disguise. And she's actually reached out and said, hey, Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot, kind of funny name, President Donald Trump agreed. They should have that in quotes, shouldn't they? Agreed? Just the fact that they quote unquote agreed. I mean, I don't even know how they can write that in the same sentence with Orange Man bad. But apparently this happened on Thursday of last week to bring federal agents from the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, the Drug Enforcement Agency, and the Federal Bureau of Investigations, a bunch of alphabet agencies, into a partnership with the city's crime control efforts to help stem the bloodshed that has rocked Chicago since late May, when coronavirus-related lockdown measures were lifted. Of course, that's what it's related to. It was the lifting of the restrictions. Otherwise, all this senseless killing wouldn't be happening. Everyone knows that. That being said, the Chicago mayor has basically said, hey, look, I want your help, Trump, but you got to work with me. You got to work with my troops. I just don't want your guys standing out there just, standing in front of buildings being all threatening and imposing and stuff. No, work with my people. So whatever. I'm sure they're like, yeah, just let us stop the violence in your city because you're apparently incapable of doing so. So again, if you had to plan it out, if you had to pick things to happen, how would you show the people that are starting to wake up? Maybe you're already super awake. But for like me, I've got friends on the left. I've got coworkers on the left. I've got family on the left. How do you have discussions with people? How do you offer facts? How do you offer an olive branch when they finally do start asking the right kinds of questions? And these are some of those questions. These are some of those factual type things that can be brought up. Sometimes it's a little pesky, but when you've got actual evidence of other people doing the opposite of what you thought they would do, well, then it starts to change things drastically. And it's kind of funny how that plays out. Here's a fun little section of an interview that we're going to check out here with Nadler and I forget his name, Ryan Saavedra, I believe. So anyway, great little interview, and you just got to wonder how factual this guy is. And by the way, I am 100% sure the character, the Penguin, came from this guy. He was the role model of the character, the Penguin. Let's check out what the Penguin has to say.
It is true. There's violence across the whole country. Do you disavow the violence from Antifa? That's happening in Portland right now? There's riots.
That's a myth that's being spread only in Washington, D.C.
About Antifa in Portland?
Yes.
Sir, there's videos everywhere online. There's fires and riots. They're throwing fireworks at federal officers. DHS is there. Look online. It gets crazy, Mr. Nadler.
Seriously, Mr. Nadler, like, open up a newspaper, waddle, waddle. Oh, man, doesn't he look like the Penguin? Am I wrong? I mean, again, maybe that's insensitive. Maybe I'm fat-shaming horrible, evil politicians that look like the Penguin. So I'm Penguin shaming. So I'm sorry for the one human that's out there that looks like the Penguin. Maybe some others. And I'm sorry if you're someone else that looks like Nadler. I apologize to you because I feel like I'm being offensive to you by comparing you to Nadler. And I didn't mean to do that. But Nadler, he friggin' looks like a emperor penguin, just kind of waddly. Anyway, just saying. I know that's not nice. It's not nice. Something that's been pointed out that's kind of interesting. I don't know if you guys have heard of that Cuomo guy out there in New York. Was it Chris Cuomo or is that the one on CNN? I get the two brothers confused. He just goes by Cuomo. Governor Cuomo. We'll call him that. He's Governor Cuomo. He's asked, he's not just some CNN DB. He's an actual governor. He's a governator. That being said, apparently in New York, their deaths, this is the big number they really wanted to point out in this particular graph. I mean, granted, their numbers of deaths are pretty strong. I think in this particular case, it was 32,000 deaths in New York. And down there in New Jersey, you guys might have heard of him. He just arrested those guys that had the gym that were keeping it open. I think they literally removed the doors because they padlocked. The police came and padlocked the doors. Sheriff, whatever the hell, padlocked the doors. So they literally removed the doors so New Jersey couldn't actually lock them out of their own business. Right? That's funny as hell. But anyway, so New York and New Jersey happen to be the two worst states right next to each other. Funny. But they're saying deaths per 1 million. This is kind of where they compare countries, right? This is how they say, like, oh, this country is worse than this country as far as deaths per million. Sweden has done good. Oh, this country's done bad, right? So 1,668 deaths per million. Now, one thing to point out, New Jersey's actually worse. Now, they didn't have more overall deaths. Good on you, New Jersey. You managed to hit the same number of deaths per 1 million population without having as much population. That's actually impressive in and of itself. So Cuomo's almost the worst. But in my opinion, that guy out there, Murphy, I think his name is, in New Jersey, oh, he's definitely neck and neck with first place of who the worst is. Not sure which one of you guys are going to get that, but we'll check it out. We'll see how this plays out. But anyway, deaths by million pop for the United States happens to be 418. That's like a quarter of New York and a little, like 20% of New Jersey. Now, compared to Brazil, 343, 17 in India, 80 in Russia. Now, India, that's kind of like China too, right? Like you got a billion plus people. Like that's not fair. Like you can really wash your numbers. But it looks like one of the worst is 660 here in the UK, mate. Right? 660. And wait, hang on. For one state, for one centralized amount of population, 668. And it's not like New York doesn't have a lot of people, right? They got a lot of people in New York. New York State, at least overall, New York City's got a lot per capita. I think California's larger overall, big population. I think 35 million or something like that out here. But New York's not a small state. So 1668. That is like from the worst that I can find on this list, 660. That's like more than 3 times that. Okay, less than 3 times. Sorry, 1800 would be 3 times, right? So just shy of 3 times the next worst country, which is the UK, interestingly. Another Western country. So very interesting how these things are playing out. Now, I'm going to get into this last little bit that I think is going to really start to help awaken people. Now, there's been Newsweek just came out. That's actually deep state media, by the way. For whatever reason, either someone else bought them recently or they're trying to get some people to actually look at that stupid magazine. Not sure. But they came out with this very interesting article about hydroxychloroquine. Now, this is, of course, going to be quoting from Newsweek. But they do mention this guy in here that they did an interview with. And apparently he, as a professor of epidemiology at Yale School of Public Health, so not like a crap school, Yale, one of those Ivy League ones, he has authored over 300 peer-reviewed publications and currently holds senior positions on the editorial boards of several leading journals. I am usually accustomed to advocating for positions within the mainstream of medicine, so have been flummoxed to find that in the midst of the crisis, I am fighting for a treatment that is data fully supports, but which, for reasons having nothing to do with correct understanding of the science, which has been solved apparently, has been pushed to the sidelines. As a result, tens of thousands of patients with COVID-19 are dying unnecessarily. He's also someone that's basically like a Fauci. And of course he continues, I am referring, of course, to the medication of hydroxychloroquine. When this inexpensive oral medication is given very early in the course of illness, before the virus has had time to multiply beyond control, it has shown to be highly effective, especially when given in combination with antibiotics, azithromycin or doxycycline, and the nutritional supplement zinc, which is what they've been talking about. It's what Trump took, all these things. And it works very well as a prophylactic. It's what he continues to talk about first as well. The medication has been highly politicized. For many, it is viewed as a marker of political identity on both sides of the political spectrum. Nobody needs me to remind them that this is not how medicine should proceed. We must judge this medication strictly on the science, which is solved. Second, the drug has not been used properly in many studies. Hydroxychloroquine has shown major success when used early in high-risk people, but as one would expect for an antiviral, much less success when used late in the disease course. When you use it late, when you've already had a bunch of this virus manifest inside of you and double and triple and quadruple, then yeah, it doesn't work as well. When you catch it early, it works great. So his final little comment, which is freaking awesome. In the future, I believe this misbegotten episode regarding hydroxychloroquine will be studied by sociologists of medicine as a classic example of how extra scientific factors overrode clear-cut medical evidence. The same thing that the left likes to say to the right. Pot calling kettle black much? Huh, interesting. Now, some of you are like, wow, that's Newsweek. Yeah, obviously, Dr. Fauci, I mean, he's in the know. This is just new stuff. I mean, duh. Well, you know, it's funny you should say that. Now, oddly, Dr. Fauci started being the director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Disease since 1984. 84. A lot of you weren't even born yet, and Fauci was already in charge of this National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Disease, or the NIAID, which is ridiculous. It's a mouthful. That all being said, the NIH, which happens to be them as well, and I'm sharing a source here from the NCBI, which is .nlm, .nih, .gov, whatever. I don't know what all that crap stands for. It doesn't really matter. NIH is in there, right? But this is about chloroquine as a potent inhibitor of SARS coronavirus infection and spread. Now, the other thing to pay close attention to is this August 22nd of 2005. 2005, 15 years ago. 15 years ago. So, severe acute respiratory syndrome, SARS. You guys might remember that one got thrown around for those of you that are a little bit older than, others. And there was something that really jumped out at me on this part here, the background. Severe acute respiratory syndrome, SARS, is an emerging disease that was first reported in Guangdong province in China in late 2002. The disease rapidly spread to at least 30 countries within months of its first appearance, and concerted worldwide efforts led to the identification of the etiological agent as SARS coronavirus, or SARS-CoV, a novel member of the family Coronavirinae. Complete genome sequences of SARS-CoV confirmed this pathogen is not closely related to any of the previously established coronavirus groups. Now, what's very interesting about this SARS-CoV virus that we keep talking about is they often refer to it as the CoV-2 in parentheses, 2 in parentheses. So this 2005 CoV-1, basically, but you don't ever number 1 unless you've got a 2. This CoV-1, we already knew a bunch about, and they had a study that said this chloroquine is a potent inhibitor. Now they've got even a better version of it with the hydroxychloroquine and the additional steps of the azithromycin or the dioxycycline, whatever, and the zinc. So we've known, Fauci's known about this SARS virus, about how to help the COVID virus, and they've intentionally kept information away from the public. Information about a drug that's been around for, 60 years? They say decades. It's been used for malaria, and it's been successfully used for many, many years. So it's not a dangerous, risky drug. Yeah, there might have been some risks, but again, those were based off the Lancet report and some other report that were all ruined. Like the Lancet, they had to pull the report back because when they asked to see the data, they couldn't show it because it didn't support their numbers. So they ended up withdrawing the Lancet report. And there was a veterans report that was also incorrect or false. So they have not been able to provide any evidence to the contrary, and they've actually been able to provide a large amount of evidence to suggest that as a prophylactic, this particular drug is very special and helpful, and it also works if you catch it early on and use it. So not only does it keep you from getting it, but it also helps you get over it in recovery times that are extremely accelerated. Again, I'm going by information. I'm not a doctor. Don't play one on TV. But information from other doctors such as this guy that is the professor of epidemiology at the Yale School of Public Health. He's not an idiot. Now, maybe Yale's super Republican, I guess, and Harvard's not. I mean, I don't know. I don't. I figure all schools are all kind of off on that left-turn, going to change the world and, communist, whatever. But whatever the case is. There's other experts that disagree with some of the current experts. And I think a lot of the evidence is starting to suggest that we're not maybe having the full story given to us, for whatever reasons those might be. But as I said before, if you were to try to set up a situation where they just keep showing their hand to the public, and like, it's obvious it's happening. It's obvious I'm going to 2-move checkmate you, and you still made that second move. You still moved. You didn't block that diagonal that I'm going to take advantage of. You allowed me to see this. And I don't know if it's because they can't control themselves, or if literally this is seriously controlled by God completely, and it's meant to just help us wake up. And as we do wake up, then eventually enough of us will wake up. And then once enough of us are awoken, then, right, we're going to put our feet down and be like, this is it. But whatever the case is, the way this is playing out, the sleeping masses can't stay asleep long. If they're not already starting to wake up and ask you questions, then they're going to be very shortly. Nothing new on the Q front. We've got no new posts. He's gone dark again, which is cool. And the 3 posts that he actually shared when he came back were kind of goofy to begin with. So, I think it was more than 3, but a few. But still, not a lot's happening. Again, I think a lot's happening in the background. And not trying to create a bunch of noise on the front. We're just letting them destroy themselves. Why affect the enemy when they're destroying themselves? I believe that was The Art of War as well, by Sun Tzu. So hopefully these things make a difference. It's on the Fringe with Dan Radio Style.